Hello friends, we have examined the views of some of the Western critics, writers, poets on William Blake. Now let us once again read some of his poems. William Blake's poems are so simple that they hardly need explanation, and still we would talk a little about them. The first poem that I have selected is The Little Boy Lost. It has just 2 stanzas, which is 8 lines. And the next poem, the poem that succeeds The Little Boy Lost in the Songs of Innocence, is The Little Boy Found. Here, let us first read The Little Boy Lost. Father, Father, where are you going? I do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. Father, Father, where are you going? I do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. The picture that goes with this poem does not show the father, just as the invisible worm could not be seen, cannot possibly be seen in the picture, and the picture did have the caterpillar. So the caterpillar is not invisible. The rose is there and the caterpillar is there in the sick rose. But he calls the invisible worm has found thy crimson bed of joy. We do not see the crimson bed of joy. We do not see the invisible worm. But we do see the caterpillar and we do see the rose. Here, in the picture that accompanies The Little Boy Lost and The Little Boy Found, we do not see the invisible father. Father, Father, where are you going? I do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. The night was dark, no father was there. The child was wet with dew. The mire was deep, and the child did weep, and away the vapor flew. Something magical happens. Poetic statements are strange kind of statements. There are moments in life which are poetic. In fact, seen from a certain point of view, the whole life can be poetic, because poetry springs out of life, and in turn, poetry throws light on our lives. Father, Father, where are you going? I do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. Many a time we do not realize what's happening to us in life. Where are we going? Why are so many things happening to us? The stream of life carries us along like flotsam or jetsam, and we don't know where we are going, where we are headed for. Father, Father, where are you going? Oh, do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. The night was dark, no father was there. The child was wet with dew. The mire was deep, and the child did weep, and away the vapor flew. It sounds almost like magic. The man of reason would say things don't happen that way. The man of faith would say, yes, life is a mystery. Things don't go by calculation. Our calculations fail. Next, in the Songs of Innocence, The Little Boy Found succeeds The Little Boy Lost. And he says, the little boy lost in the lonely fen, led by the wandering light, began to cry, but God ever nigh, appeared like his father in white. He kissed the child, and by the hand led, and to his mother brought, who in sorrow pale, through the lonely dale, her little boy weeping sought. Dale refers to the valley in the Yorkshire, Westmoreland, the Lake District. It is one of the most beautiful parts of England. And the word Dale reminds us of the Lake District, Wordsworth's Lake District. He kissed the child, and by the hand led, and to his mother brought, who in sorrow pale, through the lonely dale, her little boy weeping sought. And so you see the mother holding the child in the illustration, and not the father. This is an intense experience of innocence. The world appears to be perfect, where you are looked after by God. If something goes wrong, God would take care of you. This is the experience of innocence. This is a child's approach to life. Older people can also be like children. You remember Derozio, while discussing Wordsworth, asked his students to go and see Ramakrishna Paramhans, and he was like that child. So you don't necessarily have to be a child. The child is a kind of a metaphorical statement. The child describes the state of mind of the person rather than the actual child. The little boy lost in the lonely fen, led by the wandering light, began to cry, but God ever nigh is near, appeared like his father in white. Blake is resorting to a familiar image of God being either light or something resplendent and beautiful, anirvachaniya beauty, beauty which words cannot describe. And here God appears as a father in white. He kissed the child, and by the hand led, and to his mother brought, who in sorrow pale, through the lonely dale, her little boy weeping sought. Here we'll read the little girl lost and the little girl found. Here you have the little girl lost. In futurity I prophetic see, in futurity I prophetic see, that the earth from sleep, and within parentheses he says, grave the sentence deep. In futurity I prophetic see, that the earth from sleep, grave the sentence deep. Blake did rise to great poetic statements many a time in his poetry. In Jerusalem that accompanies Milton, he says, bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire, bring me my spear, O stars unfold, bring me my chariot of fire. And again here these have the same kind of resonance that you find in great poetry. I recall Borges' appreciation of Whitman's Leaves of Grass, and there he quotes Whistler, and he says, art happens. I will read out that portion from his very great collection of non-fictional prose, Jorge's Luis Borges, his non-fictional writings, Jorge's Luis Borges, selected non-fiction. This is a book definitely worth consulting. I am going to read out from page 448. Borges writes, and he quotes Whistler. In a cafe argument over the genealogy of art and the diverse influences of education, nationality and milieu, the painter Whistler said simply, art happens. Art happens. Which is tantamount to admitting that the aesthetic is in essence inexplicable. The aesthetic is in essence inexplicable. It was understood to be so by the Hebrews, Borges points out. It was understood to be so by the Hebrews, who spoke of the Spirit, and by the Greeks, who invoked the Muse. It was understood to be so by the Hebrews. What was understood? Aesthetic is in essence inexplicable. You cannot explain beauty away. No amount of writing, no amount of explication, no amount of description, no amount of discussion, no analysis can exhaust a work of art, or replace, for that matter, a work of art. This was understood by the Hebrews, Borges points out, who spoke of the Spirit, and by the Greeks, who invoked the Muse. When he talks about the Hebrews, he must be thinking about Moses, about Genesis, about the Pentateuch, about Exodus. About Isaiah, about Ezekiel, about Micah. When he is talking about the Greeks, he must be thinking of Homer. The inevitability of art. It's just there. No amount of description can explain it. That is what we'll have to say about Blake's poems also. The Little Girl Lost, as I said, is the story of a little girl called Laika. It is so much like the little boy lost and the little boy found that we feel that it should have been in the Songs of Innocence, as it was when it was first published. In 1794, when Blake published his Songs of Innocence along with Songs of Experience, then he changed its place. The Little Girl Lost is the story of Laika, a little girl. In futurity I prophetic see that the earth from sleep, grave the sentence deep, shall arise and seek for her maker meek, and the desert wild become a garden mild, and the desert wild become a garden mild, in the southern clime where the summer's prime never fades away, lovely Laika lay. He is giving a background to his story. In the southern clime where the summer's prime never fades away, lovely Laika lay. 7 summers old, lovely Laika told, she had wandered long, hearing wild bird song. Sweet sleep, come to me, underneath this tree, Do father, mother weep? Where can Laika sleep? Sweet sleep, come to me underneath this tree. Do father, mother weep? Where can Laika sleep? This is the child who is thinking. Are my father and mother weeping for me? Because they don't know where I am. And if they are weeping, how can this wee daughter sleep? Lost in desert wild is your little child. How can Laika sleep if her mother weep? Lost in desert wild is your little child. How can Laika sleep if her mother weep? If her heart does ache, then let Laika wake. If my mother sleep, Laika shall not weep. Frowning, frowning night, o'er this desert bright, let the moon arise while I close my eyes. Frowning, frowning night, o'er this desert bright, let thy moon arise while I close my eyes. Sleeping Laika lay, while the beasts of prey come from caverns deep, viewed the maid asleep. So when Laika goes to sleep below the tree, wild animals come to see Laika. Sleeping Laika lay, while the beasts of prey come from caverns deep, viewed the maid asleep. The kingly lion stood, and the virgin viewed. You have the kingly lion looking, staring at the baby Laika, the young girl, the wee child. The kingly lion stood, and the virgin viewed. Then he gamboled round o'er the hallowed ground. Ground becomes hallowed because of Laika's presence. Leopards, tigers play around her as she lay, while the lion old bowed his mane of gold. Leopards, tigers play around her as she lay, while the lion old bowed his mane of gold. And her bosom lick, and upon her neck from his eyes of flame ruby tears there came. And her bosom lick, and upon her neck from his eyes of flame ruby tears there came. While the lioness loosed her slender dress, while the lioness loosed her slender dress, and naked they conveyed to caves the sleeping maid. They carry away the child to a cave. This is what you read in the little girl lost. It's much longer than the little boy lost. The little girl lost is a narrative poem. It tells us the story of Laika, who is lost in a desert, he says, desert wild. But desert is more a descriptive term than an actual desert, because you see there is a tree. And Blake doesn't describe the sand in the desert. So this is not a desert. This is a deserted place, a vacant place where there are no human beings. There are only animals, tigers and leopards and lions. But this is a strange story. The lion weeps tears of ruby. And the lioness loses her slender dress, and naked they convey to caves the sleeping maid. There is something oniric, there is something dreamlike in the description of this poem, in the narrative of this poem. Such things happen in dreams alone. You don't see such things in real life. Now let's read The Little Girl Lost, Little Girl Found. All the night in woe, like as parents go over valleys deep, while the deserts weep. All the night in woe, like as parents go over valleys deep, while the deserts weep. Tired and woe begone, hoarse with making moan, arm in arm 7 days, they traced the desert ways. Arm in arm 7 days, they traced the desert ways. That is like us, father and mother. Tired and woe begone, hoarse with making moan, arm in arm 7 days, they trace the desert ways. 7 nights they sleep among shadows deep, and dream they see their child starved in desert wild. 7 nights they sleep among shadows deep, and dream they see their child starved in desert wild. They dream that their child is starved in the wild desert, in the wild, lonely place. Pale through pathless ways, the fancied image strays, famished, weeping, weak, with hollow, piteous shriek. Pale through pathless ways, the fancied image strays. They imagine the fancied image of Laika, goes from here to there, pale through pathless ways, and she is going around without food, without comfort, without sleep, in the dreams of the parents, the father and mother of Laika. Pale through pathless ways, the fancied image strays, famished, weeping, weak, with hollow, piteous shriek. And sometimes she is threatened by a lion or another wild animal. She is weeping, she is weak. Laika is without food, so she famishes and shrieks. Rising from unrest, the trembling woman pressed with feet of weary woe, she could no further go. Rising from unrest, the trembling woman pressed with feet of weary woe, she could no further go. That is Laika's mother. In his arms he bore her, armed with sorrow sore, till before their way a couching lion lay. And then the parents discover a lion on their way. The lion is obstructing their way. Turning back was vain, soon his heavy mane bore them to the ground, then he stalked around. Turning back was vain, there was no going back. The lion would have chased them and killed them. Turning back was vain, soon his heavy mane bore them to the ground, then he stalked around. Smelling to his prey, but their fears allay, when he licks their hands, and silent by them stands. They look upon his eyes, filled with deep surprise, and wondering behold a spirit armed in gold. The lion seems to be getting transformed from a beast of prey to a spirit armed in gold. They look upon his eyes, filled with deep surprise, and wondering behold a spirit armed in gold. On his head a crown, on his shoulders down, flowed his golden hair, gone was all their care. The lion was now looking like a king. On his head a crown, on his shoulders down, flowed his golden hair, gone was all their care. Follow me, he said, weep not for the maid, in my palace deep, Laika lies asleep. How simple the words are, how utterly simple. Blake apparently wrote these poems for children, who he thought understood him better than older people. Follow me, he said, weep not for the maid, in my palace deep, Laika lies asleep. Then they followed where the vision led, and saw their sleeping child among tigers wild. Then they followed where the vision led. Now the lion becomes a king because he wears a crown, and now he is a vision. Then they followed where the vision led, and saw their sleeping child among tigers wild. To this day they dwell in a lonely dell, nor fear the wolfish howl, nor the lion's growl. What kind of a poem is this? To this day they dwell in a lonely dell. To this day they dwell in a lonely dell, nor fear the wolfish howl, nor the lion's growl. They live there forever. You find in the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, the Ancient Mariner narrates his story again and again. It's an act of penance for him. It's a holy act. Such things happen in dreams. They don't happen in reality. Blake was writing in the late 18th century, when the French Revolution had broken out. Songs of Innocence was published in 1789. And in 1794, Songs of Innocence and of Experience was published. Songs of Experience for the first time. There was this spirit of living in a new age in the air. You would remember Wordsworth wrote, "Bliss was it in this dawn to be alive, and to be young was very heaven." So the old age, the age of reason, the age of prose, the age of common sense was over. The age of mystery, the age of inspiration, the age of romanticism was on. And Blake wrote before the publication of the lyrical ballads, which has often been considered as a watershed in the history of English literature, as a turning point in the history of English literature. Blake heralded the age of romanticism in a very radical sense, much more radical than Wordsworth or Coleridge. Now let's read a poem called "The Divine Image" in the Songs of Innocence. And along with this, we will read the human abstract in the Songs of Experience. We don't have much time, so we would go fast. The divine image. To mercy, pity, peace and love, all pray in their distress, and to these virtues of delight return their thankfulness. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God our Father dear, and mercy, pity, peace, and love is man his child and care. For mercy has a human heart, pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and peace the human dress. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress, praise to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace, and all must love the human form, in heathen, Turk, or Jew, where mercy, love, and pity dwell, their God is dwelling too. This is an innocent child's experience, or this is an innocent child's point of view. Mercy, pity, and love are being extolled, are being praised as great virtues. To mercy, pity, peace, and love all pray in their distress. C.M. Baura says, the divine image, of course, is man, but man in part of his complex being and seen from a special point of view. If you are a merciful person, peace-loving person, if you pity the poor, if you have the quality of love, you are a divine person. You are man in the image of God, the divine image. That is the traditional opinion about mercy, pity, peace, and love. To mercy, pity, peace, and love all pray in their distress, and to these virtues of delight return their thankfulness. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God our Father dear, and mercy, pity, peace, and love is man his child and care. For mercy has a human heart, pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and peace the human dress. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress, prays to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace. It reminds me once again of those two lines from The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. Thou art a man, God is no more, thine own humanity learn to adore. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress, prays to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace. And all must love the human form, in heathen, Turk, or Jew. A heathen, Turk, or Jew. This is what an Englishman is saying. A Jew or a Turk are not necessarily and are not also a heathen, because he is not a Christian, is not liked by the traditional Englishman. But he says, and all must love the human form, in heathen, Turk, or Jew, where mercy, love, and pity dwell, their God is dwelling too. This is an innocent person's point of view. For God is the divine essence which exists potentially in every man and woman. Now, how does he look at this aspect in the Songs of Experience? The companion poem in the Songs of Experience is the human abstract. In an earlier version, he had given this poem also the title, The Divine Image, but he changed it to the human abstract. Pity would be no more if we did not make somebody poor. When is pity important? When there is where someone else is poor, only then you pity that person. Pity would be no more if we did not make somebody poor, and mercy no more could be if all were as happy as we. And what would be the use of mercy if everyone were as happy as ourselves? And mutual fear brings peace till the selfish loves increase. Then cruelty knits a snare and spreads his baits with care. And mutual fear brings peace till the selfish loves increase. Then cruelty knits a snare and spreads his baits with care. When do we become cruel? When we become selfish, when we become self-centered, when we wish to achieve material happiness for ourselves, whether it's the happiness of kissing Kamla or acquiring money in order to buy presents for Kamla, metaphorically speaking. Then we make a snare, and mutual fear brings peace, and mutual fear brings peace till the selfish loves increase. Then cruelty knits a snare and spreads his baits with care. He sets down with holy fears and waters the ground with tears. Then humility takes its root underneath his foot. What is humility? Humility is a kind of hypocrisy. Nobody is humble, basically, fundamentally. You show humility. You hold low profile in order to deceive another person. He sits down with holy fears and waters the ground with tears. Then humility takes its root underneath his foot. Soon spreads the dismal shade of mystery over his head. Soon spreads the dismal shade of mystery over his head, and the caterpillar and fly feed on the mystery. There is something hidden. We don't understand another person because he appears humble, he appears pious, he appears to be good. So we fail to understand him. And the caterpillar and fly feed on the mystery. Soon spreads the dismal shade of mystery over his head, and the caterpillar and fly feed on the mystery. And it bears the fruit of deceit, ruddy and sweet to eat. The fruit of deceit is ruddy and sweet to eat. How do you earn more money if not by deceiving others? And it bears the fruit of deceit, ruddy and sweet to eat, and the raven his nest has made in its thickest shade. The raven is a bird that goes and kills other birds. And the raven has his nest has made in its thickest shade. The gods of the earth and sea sought through nature to find this tree, but their search was all in vain. There grows one in the human brain. Even God cannot find out the true personality of an individual because it lies in the human brain. It lies hidden, fold over fold. The folds are made of pity, peace, love, humility, and these are all actually hypocrisy. And Blake was a tireless aggressor over hypocrisy, human hypocrisy, because he felt that hypocrisy is the worst aspect of a human being. People adopt hypocrisy in order to gain material success in life, and this material success brings about experience drives away innocence, just as it happened in the case of Siddhartha when he met Kamala and then Kamaswami. Kamala taught him how to love. Kamaswami taught him how to make money. And when he was immersed in these, what he calls what Hess calls sansar, then he thought of coming out of it. And probably Blake also thought that experience was part of life, part of our material existence, and we had to overcome it in order to regain our innocence. Thank you.